Hello, once again, it's me, your boy Katsura, and I'm here to drop in another tier list. This time about anime. And what anime series I'm going to talk about, of course? I'm going to talk about the Demon Slayer tier list. Yep, I'm ranking every season of Demon Slayer up to the most recent Husher Train arc. And the reason I'm doing this is simply because in preparation of what's going on with the up and coming movie that's coming up in a couple months, I figure it's time for me to drop a Demon Slayer tier list, giving my thoughts and feelings of every single Demon Slayer season, get ranking from S to F tier. So without further ado, let's get into the tier list. And bam, starting with the first season of Demon Slayer, which came out back in 2019, and just as you know, Demon Slayer 2019, it's kind of crazy, honestly, to think that we've kind of reached this point now where Demon Slayer is super big, a huge juggernaut of a franchise that people are still constantly talking about this show to this day. A lot of people are referencing the first season to this day. And the amount of cosplays, the amount of memes that have spawned in the wake of this first season blowing up back in 2019 is understandable. Now, granted, when I remember this first season first came out, I wasn't super crazy about it. I thought that the show had a lot of gas left in the tank, however, for it to thrive and prosper and be a big, big show. Because, again, that same year was also the year that Dororo came out, which is another great demon slaying type of anime, but is an anime that was adapted back in the 60s, and that show is something that I prefer over Demon Slayer when it came out that year. But either way, the first season of Demon Slayer was definitely something to behold. It had everything that you want from a show of this caliber, and by UFO Table itself, where you have impeccable animation, some really good voice acting, some really good characters to root for and relate to when the show first started airing. Now, I will say that the first season of Demon Slayer has kind of somewhat I feel like it somewhat has aged a little bit over time in a weird sort of way because I feel like the first half of this first season of Demon Slayer has kind of waned and died out a little bit when later seasons down the road have proved to be much better, a lot more stronger than the first season had to offer. And I do feel like the second half does pick things up a little bit and definitely sets the stage up for the Mugen Train arc that I'll be talking about shortly. But the first season of Demon Slayer is a first season that should not be ignored either way. It's definitely like if you really want to get into Demon Slayer and you're really curious about what the show's all about, this is like a great starting point. So with that being said, there are definitely better seasons than this that I would definitely get into. But the first season definitely like really set the standard super high upon its release, and I can say that from here it does get much higher, much better from here. So with that in mind, I'm gonna be placing the first season of Demon Slayer comfortably in the B tier. I think it's pretty good. There are once again stronger Demon Slayer seasons to come out past this point, but for how it started off, it had a pretty strong showing, and that's something that not a lot of anime shows nowadays can really hit, to say the least. Okay, up next we have actually two little showings here, but they're basically the same. It is the 2020 release of the Mugen Train arc. So we have the movie version that you see right here, and of course right here the TV version. So to kind of rip this off the band-aid, both of these are going to be placed in the same ranking, to be clear. And the only difference between the TV show and the movie version of this is that the TV show of this Mugen Train arc essentially is just like a one extra episode of wherever Goku-san was at before he got into the train itself. But to sum it up in a nutshell, I mean, both of these are really good. If you're someone that likes to watch TV episodes of this movie train arc rather over the movies, it's really your preference. It's up to you. But either way, they're both basically the same. But enough about that. Mugen Train arc. This is the movie that came out back in 2020. This was a smash global phenomenon that came out that year. And honestly, is the hype, is everything about this show still true to this day? Honestly, I agree with this. It's still strong, still goes hard. It is still one of the most like talked about moments in the Demon Slayer franchise to this day because of Rengoku-san and his tribulations to the film itself and how it all plays out into the very end. It's super super amazing. It really also showcases like what Demon Slayer's potential fully had with this 1 2 hour long movie, I believe it was. And this movie train arc is definitely one of the strongest showings that the Demon Slayer franchise had up until this point. Now, with that being said, there were moments where we had some lowlights where it did have some moments where it kind of held itself back a little bit, and a lot of the times, this movie does rely on like the emotional aspects to get people grasping for the movie itself. Again, not to say that the scenes with Rengoku-san and Tanjiro and Nezuko weren't emotional. I'm not saying that at all, but I will admit that like if you look back at this movie emotionally, it does tug on your heartstrings, and that's what it conveys in a way. But once again, I do feel like some people are not gonna like this movie slash TV show because of the fact that we have the infamous like criticism being that they're using CGI 3D animation, and it's like honestly the CGI 3D animation in this movie wasn't even that bad when it came out. It's actually one of the stronger releases to come out in the Demon Slayer franchise up until this point. So I get that this may be a turnoff for people if they don't like the CGI 3D animation that pops up within this movie. But honestly, if you ignore that, you're going to see some of the most beautiful, amazing, and well put together animated fight scenes ever, emotional scenes between Goku and Tanjiro and company. So, with that being said, I do think this is a huge step up from the first season, albeit a really short one considering that this is a movie. But for a movie that stands really strong to this day, it definitely has a lot of legs to stand on. So first off, I'm gonna put the TV show and the movie comfortably in the A tier. Again, both of them are literally the same. I do not see any reason why any of these are gonna rank any higher than what it is, and both of them respectfully are really strong showings of what the Demon Slayer franchise had to offer up until that point. All right, and here we are on to the next official second season of Demon Slayer at the time. Is the 2022 release of the Demon Slayer Red Light District art, or the Entertainment District art, for some people to make it clean. And I'm gonna come out here and say that out of all the seasons up to everything up to this point, I think that this right here is the best that Demon Slayer has to offer. Point blank. Period. I think the Relic District arc is easily a top tier best anime to come out within the past 5 years. It's honestly one of the best like animation wise. It's so crisp, so clean. The characters in the show are phenomenal. Even the villains in the show in this season, you could relate to, you could understand, and everyone was a fucking highlight in this show. Even freaking Zenitsu, who, again, up until this point, everyone freaking hated and despised Zenitsu. Zenitsu truly had a chance to shine here and showcase why he is a character that you can actually vibe with and sympathize with. And again, you have Tengen Izui, who's probably one of my favorite Hashiras in general, and he's still a badass even to this freaking day. Again, I think that this is a instant masterpiece of what the Demon Slayer franchise has to offer. I also would argue that this season in a nutshell is the reason that like if you really give this season a shot and you watch this from front to back and come back to it absolutely loving it, this will 100% encourage you to watch the Mugen Train arc and even the first season, go back into it because this is a show that, for me, really puts a lot of modern day shows to shame with how much the fight sequence and the choreography is, how much they finally have a good balance of emotional stakes at high. Even the jokes in this season weren't super over the top. It was actually like super balanced and it was appropriate for the sake of being of carrying that momentum. And once again, there are a ton, and I mean a ton of highlights in this red light district arc that I could name off of front and back. But this is a timeless show that for me, if anyone tells me what is my favorite Demon Slayer season, this is easily at the number one spot. So again, animation is beautiful, voice acting is amazing, the music is probably the best that the music has to offer up until this point. This is literally everything that Demon Slayer was trying to strive for, and they hit the jackpot when it came to out back in 2022. So yeah, make no mistake, I love this season. I cannot gush over how well this is. this is easily going to go into the S tier. It's the best that the arc has to offer, and one that I'm hoping that when we get the movie coming out in the next couple months, hits that same stride as the Red Light District, because this was definitely a high point of the Demon Slayer franchise that I feel like we're not going to be getting for a good while. Okay, and now we're on to the next arc with the Swordsmith Village arc. So it's pretty interesting to think that this Swordsmith Village arc came out back in 2023. And still to this day, this is still the biggest downgrade from Red Light District arc to the Swordsmith Village arc that I've seen in a while. Like, huh? Like, again, I do commend that this season does have strong highlights. We do have highlights with the new Hashiras that we finally get to dive deep into, from Muchiro and Mitsuri's backstory. We also get to see a highlight between Tanjiro and Nezuko working together in a really cool, amazing way. But at the same time, I do feel like there are a ton of things missing from this season that made that could have been like what made Red Light District special. From the fact that we didn't get to know much about this demon right here, and he just died off instantly, just like that. And we didn't get to know much of his background, why he became a demon. He just simply died within seconds. To the demon with the multiple different emotions, where it was really cool to see his different forms and fight every version of him till we get to see his true form that made him powerful as he is. But despite that, I feel like there wasn't a full balance to the Swordsmith Village arc. I felt like this show was definitely tearing to trying to be still emotional, still trying to give a flashy action, but it wasn't fully balancing those two things that made it special in the first place. And to me, this was definitely the first man, this was kind of disappointing kind of season that I was hoping for. And believe me, I gave the show a pretty good fair chance, but this wasn't it, sadly. I think that this was definitely a low point for the show because, again, there's also criticisms that when this came out at the time, the CGI was super dog shit with the infamous demon fish that was popping up in the earlier episodes of this Swordsmith Village arc. But I would argue that, again, to this day, the animation isn't super bad. It's not the worst thing out there. Again, going back to Mugen Train arc with the CGI 3D animation that was popping up back then, it's not as bad as people say it is. Like, we're not talking Berserk 2016 animation bad. Again, the animation for the show was still really good. It's still really strong. I just think that the character depths and the story that was driving this arc was really underwhelming. And because of that, comfortably, to no one's surprise, I would have to sadly put this in the C tier. It's a C tier. I cannot put this a B or an A tier, and that's where I'm going to leave it at. And while we're at it, I'm going to not pause and just kind of go on to the final arc that is covered right now with the Hashira Train arc. And look, I'm just going to cut to the bullshit. Hashira Train arc is a easy freaking it's a D tier. It's a D tier. The reason I put Hashira Training Arc into a D tier, mind you, is that this is the weakest that the show has to offer up to that point. They basically take everything that was left of Swordsmith Village arc and essentially just reduce it down to nothing more than a joke. Again, there were highlights, being that the final two episodes did set up this big stage presence of what's to come in the up and coming movie that's coming out in 2 months. But the Mugen Train arc is easily the weakest that Demon Slayer has to offer. It was just a boring season. There's nothing flashy about it. Yes, you do have highlights with the Hashiras and what they stand for and some really cool emotional moments, but each of them only lasts for like half an episode, sometimes the whole episode, and that's it. We did get to see my favorite Hashira come back again with Uzui, but even with that in mind, it wasn't a great arc in general. And to me, it just felt like the Harsh Return arc was mainly filler and nothing more. And yes, I did read the Demon Slayer manga itself, and I'm aware that this is part of the story, but this was just super unrecognizable and just unbearing of what the Demon Slayer franchise had to offer up to that point. So yeah, for anyone saying that Hashira Train Arc is an 8 out of 10 and that it's still a fan favorite, you're coping. You're absolutely coping. This is easily the worst season of the franchise by far. It's not even close. And its past records show, as you see in my completed tier list now, that this is that there are better shows that come out past this Hot Shot Train arc from back then. But anyway, enough of my little rant. Hot Shot Train arc and all the arcs alone is here. This is my official Demon Slayer tier list. I might update this once the movie inevitably comes out. But yeah, let me know what you think of this. I did my best to try and explain it without going on a little bit of a ramble. But yeah, just wanted to make a Demon Slayer tier list and just shoot the shit, see how it goes. So yeah, that's really about it. Later.